Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into what might just be the most, contradictory and explosive year in modern music history, the year 2000. This was the year the music industry hit its absolute all-time peak, right before it completely fell off a cliff. So, to really wrap your head around the sheer scale of the music industry back then, you just have to look at this number. In March of 2000, the boy band NSYNC sold 2.4 million copies of their album No Strings Attached. And look, that's not over its lifetime or even in its first month. That was in its first week.
Yeah, that's a record that, let's be honest, is never, ever going to be broken. So why? Why will we never see a week like that again? Well, to answer that, we've got to unpack the central paradox of the year 2000. It was this moment of just unbelievable, peak success, but it was all happening right on the edge of a digital cliff.
All right, so let's get into it. To really get the full picture here, you have to appreciate just how absolutely colossal the industry was at the turn of the millennium. And it was all built pretty much entirely on one shiny little plastic disc. $14.3 billion. That's what the recorded music industry in the US pulled in back in 2000. And that's an all-time high, by the way, even without adjusting for inflation. And get this, almost all of it, a mind-blowing $13.3 billion, came from selling compact discs. The CD wasn't just a format, it was a total monopoly.
But if you looked really closely inside these massive numbers, there was this tiny crack starting to form. See, while the overall market was absolutely booming, one key group, people who owned computers, was already starting to buy fewer CDs. Their spending actually dropped by 10%. And that, right there, that was the very first tremor of the earthquake that was about to hit.
And that tremor? Oh, it had a name. It was a piece of software that started in a college dorm room and pretty soon grew into a full-blown cultural revolution, one that would bring the entire industry to its knees.
By the summer of 2000, Napster had literally tens of millions of users. And it wasn't just about offering free music. No, it fundamentally and permanently changed how an entire generation thought about what it meant to own music. The genie was officially out of the bottle.
Right, and this really gets to the crucial point here. This huge psychological shift. The idea of the celestial jukebox, having every song ever made, instantly, for free. That became the new baseline expectation. Like, overnight. Scarcity was just gone, replaced with infinite abundance.
But this brand new reality created this massive and, honestly, a now totally forgotten technical problem. So you had this incredible library of music right there on your desktop computer.
But now what? How do you leave the house with it? You got to remember this is a world before the iPod, so back in 2000, taking your digital music with you was, it was a clumsy and really frustrating experience.
And this is what really illustrates the tethered digital experience of the time. Your options were not great. You had these tiny MP3 players that held maybe one album's worth of songs, or these giant hard drive players that were literally the size of a brick. So for most people, the solution was just to burn a mixed CD, which is kind of ironic, right? The compact disc became this necessary bridge technology, even as it was being destroyed.
So how did the music industry react to this digital insurgency? Did they innovate? Adapt? Nope. They decided to sue. And in doing that, they basically lit the match on a culture war they were never, ever gonna win.
The big one, the landmark case, was Metallica versus Napster. And look, legally the band was probably in the right. But in the court of public opinion, the story just became millionaire rock stars suing their own college-aged fans. It was a total PR disaster that completely alienated a generation. And you know what? It didn't even stop the spread of file sharing.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the music itself. Let's see how this whole environment of peak commerce and this bubbling anxiety was actually reflected in the year's biggest hits, because this was, without a doubt, a time of pure maximalism.
The sales numbers were just staggering. These weren't just albums, they were massive cultural events. And they were all driven by the monolithic power of MTV's daily countdown show, Total Request Live, or TRL as we all called it. That show was basically the kingmaker for the entire industry.
Yeah, this was a culture of total excess, and there were really three sounds in particular that just dominated the whole landscape. You had that hyper-produced, Swedish-engineered perfection of teen pop, then you had the down-tuned, angst-fueled aggression of nu metal, and of course the rise of southern hip-hop and that diamond-encrusted bling era.
But while all that was happening,
While the mainstream was getting louder and shinier and more commercial, the future of music was actually being quietly written in the margins. It was a direct reaction to all that excess.
Take this. In October of 2000, Radiohead, coming off what was their biggest modern rock album ever, released Kid A. And it was this deliberately difficult, anti-commercial record. They basically abandoned guitars for synthesizers and drum machines. It confused and honestly even angered a lot of their fans and critics.
And yet, Kid A debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. It was one of the very first albums to be marketed virally online, and its success proved something huge, that a massive audience was out there, and they were hungry for something challenging, something that actually reflected the anxieties of this new millennium.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. In that very same year, you had the White Stripes releasing their super raw, minimalist blues rock album Distyle. At the same time, the soundtrack for the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou came out and sparked this massive, totally unexpected revival of old-school American folk music. I mean, both of these were a crystal-clear rejection of that digital perfection that was everywhere else.
So, here's the crucial point, the main takeaway. The year 2000 was a year that was looking in two completely different directions at the exact same time. It was caught right in the middle between two totally different worlds.
You could call it a Janus moment, named after the two-faced Roman god. One face was looking back at that glittering, super profitable, and unified monoculture of the CD. But the other face was looking forward into this chaotic, fragmented, and totally uncertain world of digital music. It was really the last big party for a world that was just about to disappear forever.
And that leaves us with a big question, right? The year 2000 basically killed the music monoculture. It gave us the infinite choice of the streaming world that we all live in today, but in trading that single shared cultural experience for a personalized playlist for every single one of us, what did we lose? That's definitely something worth thinking about.